Dear Emily, the world teaches people one rule about money, and one day you'll be rich. The problem is, saving money has never made anyone rich. I'm not going to tell you to stop saving, but I am going to show you something that nobody told you when you opened your first savings account. Saving protects what you have. It does not build what you want. And those two things, protecting and building, are completely different jobs. One keeps you from going broke. The other makes you wealthy. Most people spend their entire lives doing only one of them, and then they wonder why the finish line never gets closer. A few months ago, you told me something. You said you'd started budgeting seriously, cutting back on dinners out, bringing lunch to work, canceling subscriptions you didn't need. You were proud of it, and you should have been. But then you said something else.
Arnie, I've been saving for 8 months, and I look at my account and I just don't feel any closer. 8 months of discipline, 8 months of saying no, and the number in your account felt almost the same as when you started. You asked me if you were doing something wrong. You weren't. You were doing exactly what you were taught to do. Exhales sharply. That's the problem. I want to tell you about someone named Claire. Claire is 34. She works in healthcare administration, careful with money her whole life, always saved. At 25, she opened a high-yield savings account and put away $400 a month without fail. By the time she was 34, she had about $43,000 saved.
Not bad. That's real discipline. But here's what else happened during those same 9 years. Inflation averaged around 3.5% per year. Her savings account paid her back 1% on a good year, which means every single year, the purchasing power of her money was shrinking. She saved $43,000. But in real terms, in terms of what that money could actually buy, she was falling behind. Not because she did anything wrong, because she was playing the wrong game. She thought she was building wealth. She was actually just slowing down the loss. Here's the thing about saving. Saving is a defensive move. It keeps you from going broke when something unexpected happens. It stops you from spending money you don't have. It gives you a cushion, a buffer between you and disaster. That is genuinely valuable. I mean that. But here's what saving cannot do. Saving cannot multiply your money. And wealth, real wealth, is not about protection. Wealth is about multiplication. Saving protects. Wealth multiplies. When you put $1,000 in a savings account, what happens? After 30 years, you have barely $1,300. Now, what if that same $1,000 was in something that grew at 8% per year? After 30 years, you have over $10,000. Same $1,000, same 30 years. One becomes $1,300, the other becomes more than $10,000. That difference is the difference between storage and multiplication. Saving is storage. Wealth is multiplication. And here's the question nobody asked you when you were young. What is your money doing when you're not looking? If it's sitting in a savings account, it's barely moving. If it's in assets that compound, it's working. That's the fundamental difference. Now I want to talk about something most people ignore completely, because it's invisible. You can't see it happening. But it's working against your savings every single day. It's called inflation. Here's how it works. 10 years ago, a grocery run that cost you $100 now costs around $135. The same car that cost $28,000 now costs $38,000. The apartment you could rent for $1,200 now rents for $1,800. Prices go up every year, quietly, consistently. And here's the thing about your savings account. Most savings accounts pay somewhere between 0.5 and 2% interest. Inflation runs at roughly 3 to 4% in a normal year, which means if your savings account is paying you 1% and inflation is running at 3.5%, your money is losing purchasing power at 2.5% per year. You are getting poorer while your account balance goes up. Think about that for a moment. You're watching the number grow. You feel responsible. You feel like you're doing the right thing. But in real terms, in terms of what that money can actually buy, you're falling behind. This is not a glitch. This is how the system works. Inflation is the silent tax on people who only save. And the only defense against inflation is not saving more. It's putting your money into things that grow faster than inflation. That means assets. Let me show you two people. Same age, same starting salary, same income. The only difference is what they did with their money. Person A, Sarah. Sarah saves $500 a month starting at age 25. She puts it in a savings account earning 1.5% interest. She does this for 35 years until she's 60. At 60, she has roughly $246,000. That sounds like a lot, but adjusted for inflation, in real purchasing power, it's worth significantly less than it looks. And $246,000 at age 60 with no other income? That runs out fast. Person B, James. James also sets aside $500 a month starting at age 25. But James puts that money into an index fund averaging 8% annual returns. He does this for the same 35 years. At 60, James has roughly $1,006,000. Same $500 a month. Same 35 years. Same discipline. The only difference? Sarah stored her money. James multiplied his. That gap, $246,000 versus $1 million, that is not a gap in effort. That is a gap in understanding. Sarah worked just as hard as James. She was just as disciplined. But nobody told her the difference between saving and investing. Nobody told her that the bank was using her money to make investments, paying her 1.5% while earning 8 to 12% on the other side. She did the saving. The bank did the multiplying. With her money. Banks are not savings institutions. They are investment institutions that accept deposits. When you put money in a savings account, the bank doesn't lock it in a vault. They lend it out. They invest it. They put it into mortgages, business loans, bonds, and markets. They make 8, 10, sometimes 12% on your money, and they give you back 1%. That is not an accident. That is the model. You provide the capital. They do the multiplication. They keep most of the return. Now think about what happens to wealthy people. Wealthy people don't keep their money in savings accounts. They own the things the bank invests in. Real estate, businesses, stocks, assets that compound. They understand one thing most people never learn. Money in storage loses to inflation. Money in motion beats it. This is why the rich get richer. Not because they earn more, not because they're smarter, because they put their money into structures that multiply. And the rest of the world, the people who were taught to save and wait, are slowly falling behind without ever realizing it. It's a quiet gap. But over 30 years, it becomes an enormous one. So what am I telling you? I'm not telling you to stop saving. Savings matter. You need an emergency fund. You need a cushion. 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside. That's not optional. That's basic financial health. But once you have that cushion, every dollar you add to a savings account beyond that is a dollar that isn't multiplying. And every year that passes is a year of compounding you can never get back. The shift I want you to make is simple. Stop thinking of saving as the destination. Start thinking of it as the preparation. You save to protect yourself. You invest to build. Those are two different jobs, and both of them matter. But right now, at 25, time is the one advantage you have that you can never buy back. Every year you wait is a year of compounding lost. And compounding, Emily, that's the one force in finance that actually works for ordinary people. Not salary, not savings, compounding. But compounding requires one thing saving can never give you: ownership. You have to own something that grows. A savings account is not ownership. It's a loan to your bank at a terrible interest rate. Own things. That's where wealth comes from, not from how much you store, but from what you own and how long you let it grow. Most people were taught how to save money. Almost nobody was taught how to own assets. That's the gap. And that's what we're going to fix. Emily, the world told you to save. That wasn't wrong, but it wasn't the whole truth. Saving keeps you safe. Ownership makes you free. And safe and free are not the same thing. Start owning something. Arnie.